one of the concepts which was explained by one of the scientists known as Blackman. According to Blackman, he explained about the issue of limiting factor. Yes, these limiting factors are the one in which change in quantity of these factors, it can affect the rate of reaction or rate of reaction. For our case here, it is photosynthesis. According to this Blackman, the limiting factor rules state that when the physiological process is affected by more than one factor, yes, according to this Blackman, when the physiological process is affected by more than one factor, its rate is affected by that factor which is nearest to the minimum value. It is that factor, when there is a change of quantity of this factor, it affects the rate of reaction. For example, the process of photosynthesis is completed under two stages, which are light-dependent reaction and light-independent reaction. Therefore, for light-independent reaction to proceed, there must be a light-dependent reaction. So, the product of light reaction are required for the next stage of photosynthesis, which is light-independent reaction. When there is low light intensity, the rate at which the product of light reaction be formed is very slow. Therefore, the low rate of formation of this product of light reaction could affect the next stage of photosynthesis, which is light-independent reaction. Therefore, this limiting factor, it is very important to know this concept of limiting factor before going to explain this factor affecting rate of photosynthesis. The concept of limiting factor, we have many factors. For example, photosynthesis is affected by carbon dioxide, water, chlorophyll concentration, and so. For example, between these two, there is chlorophyll molecules, the water is available, but also when there is low light intensity. Therefore, this low light intensity will act as a limiting factor for this reaction, which is a photosynthesis. Therefore, for reaction to occur, all conditions must be there. Okay, as you have said, from this equation, we can obtain the factor which affect rate of photosynthesis. And these are carbon dioxide concentration, from the equation, but also water. Also, light, chlorophyll concentration, this is a factor and condition from the equation of photosynthesis. But this process of photosynthesis is controlled by the enzymes. All we are saying is enzyme controlled reaction. Therefore, there are some of the factors other than this which also affect the rate of photosynthesis, such as enzyme, but also we have temperature, we have some inhibitors, also there is pollution, and so. But we need to know that also there is a leaf structure and deposition, leaf structure and position. Okay. These are some of the factors which affect the rate of photosynthesis. But these factors are grouped into two main categories. We have internal factors which affect the rate of photosynthesis, but we have also external factors which affect the rate of photosynthesis. Okay, internal factors and external factor. Also, this internal factor also known as plant factor, and these external factors known as environmental factor. Starting with this internal factor. Yes, therefore, how these internal factors affect the rate of formation of carbohydrate or affect the rate of photosynthesis. As we have said, we have one of the internal factor, this chlorophyll concentration. Yes, chlorophyll concentration, again, it affects the rate of photosynthesis. How? We know that chlorophyll, this is a green pigment which is found in the green plant, responsible for absorbing light energy. This chlorophyll is responsible for absorption of light energy Okay. If you remember, when we were talking about light-dependent reaction, we have a chlorophyll. In these chlorophylls, there is the so-called reaction center, P700, P680. Therefore, when there is low concentration of these chlorophyll molecules in the plant, it can affect the rate to which the light can be absorbed by that Low concentration of chlorophyll molecules, it means there could be little amount of low concentration of chlorophylls in the green plant. It can affect the rate of photosynthesis because there will be little amount of absorption of light from the sun. But these chlorophyll molecules, there are some of the factors again which reduce the chlorophyll molecules in the plant. And one of the factors which affect this chlorophyll concentration is diseases. Some diseases in plants can affect chlorophyll concentration, see, but also lack of the mineral salt such as iron, nitrogen, which are the integral part of these chlorophyll molecules. If you remember, when we were discussing about light reaction, we have said these chlorophyll molecules, there is an integral part of these chlorophyll molecules, which is magnesium. If you remember the structure of the chlorophyll, there is a Mg, magnesium, which is an integral part of this chlorophyll. Therefore, when there is a little amount of this mineral salt, again, it can result into low production of this chlorophyll. When there's low production of these chlorophyll molecules, it means the rate of absorption of light will be very low. Hence, the rate of photosynthesis will be affected because of these chlorophyll molecules. Low chlorophyll molecules, little formation of product of light reaction, and hence slow down the process of photosynthesis. That is factor number 1. Factor number 2, again, internal factor number 2 is enzymes. Yes, the process of photosynthesis is enzyme-controlled reaction. And from the concept of cytology, you remember these enzymes, they work under optimal condition. When the optimal condition is met, it means the rate of reaction will be very high. And because this photosynthesis is enzyme-controlled reaction, for example, in the light reaction, during formation of ATP, the enzyme involved there is ATP synthase. ATP synthase. You see? But again, this is during light reaction. Again, during light independent reaction, there are some of the enzymes which are involved there. If you remember, carboxylation or carbon dioxide fixation, there are two enzymes. We have PEP carboxylase and RuBip all these are enzymes which work under optimal condition. When the condition, if you remember, we have said this PEP stands for phosphoenol. Phosphoenol pyruvate. And this is ribulose. Yes, enzymes, they work under optimal condition. When the condition is very low, or when the condition are not met, it means enzymes are inactive. But when the condition exceeds the optimal condition, we say this enzyme tend to be denatured. And once these enzymes are denatured, it means the rate of reaction will be reduced. Reduced because of what? ATP synthase, denatured. Phosphoenol pyruvate carboxylase has been denatured, and also this rubib carboxylase has been denatured. Once these enzymes are denatured, the rate of reaction will be affected. That is internal factor number 2. Another factor is leaf structure and the position. Again, the structure of the leaf has an effect on the rate of photosynthesis. Position of the leaves again has the effect on the rate of photosynthesis. In leaf structure, the thin leaves absorb much light than the thick leaves. Therefore, we expect the thin leaves will have high rate of absorption of carbon dioxide compared to the thick leaves. But again, penetration of light in the thin leaves is greater than the penetration of light in the thick leaves. Therefore, the leaf structure has effect in the rate of photosynthesis. Position, as you have said, for example, most of the plants in the tropic or subtropic area, their leaves, they are arranged in a certain angle in such a way that it could prevent excessive interception of light into this plant. These angles enable to reduce the excessive light absorption into this plant, because we know when there is excessive light absorption, it can result into a bleaching of the chlorophyll molecules. And when the chlorophyll molecules is bleaching, the rate of photosynthesis will be affected. Therefore, that is how we can explain how leaf structure and position can affect the rate of photosynthesis. As I've said, here we have a thin leaves, and also we have a thick leaves. In the thin leaves, said high rate of absorption of carbon dioxide, but also high penetration rate of light. Yes, in the thick leaves, thickness, they reduce the rate of absorption of carbon dioxide, but also reduce the penetration of light in these leaves. Therefore, that is how the leaf structure can affect the rate of photosynthesis. Position, we have said, a good example, plant in the tropic and subtropic, the leaves, they are arranged in such a way that it could reduce the angle to prevent the maximum interception of light. Okay? Now, these three factors, these are main three internal factors which affect the rate of photosynthesis. Said chlorophyll concentration, enzymes, but also there is a leaf structure and the position. Here, as I have said, example, tropic and subtropic species Their leaves arranged at a certain angle. So as to minimize excessive interception of light. Excessive interception of light to prevent bleaching of chlorophyll. Okay. After explaining this internal factor which affect the rate of photosynthesis, let us see environmental factors which affect the rate of photosynthesis. Another factor which affects the rate of photosynthesis, as I have said, we have this external factor, or we call it environmental factor. And these environmental factors are, the first one, we have temperature. Another factor is carbon dioxide concentration. Also, another external factors, light, again we have wind velocity. These are some of the external factors which affect the rate of photosynthesis: temperature, carbon dioxide concentration, light, wind velocity, and also we have water availability. Okay, let us see how these factors affect the rate of photosynthesis. Starting with factor number 1, temperature. Temperatures, it affects the rate of photosynthesis. When we are talking about the C3 plant and C4 plant, this plant, they have a different optimal temperature. Because, for example, a C3 plant, optimal temperature is around 25 degrees centigrade. But C4 plant, it's about a 35 degree centigrade. Because we have said rate of photosynthesis is enzyme controlled reaction. Even one of the factors also which affect the activity of enzymes is temperature. Enzymes work under optimal conditions such as temperature. Therefore, the enzyme of C3 plant adapted for this temperature, but also enzyme for this C4 plant adapted for this temperature. If you remember from the concept of cytology about the issue of temperature, the effect of temperature in the rate of reaction can be expressed as a temperature coefficient. Temperature coefficient, or simply we call it Q10. Effect of temperature can be effect of temperature, rate of reaction, and be expressed as temperature coefficient. Or we write Q10. From the concept of cytology, this temperature coefficient has effect on the rate of photosynthesis. According to this Q10 rule, which states that the rate of physiological process or reaction Yes, according to temperature coefficient, the rate of physiological process or reaction doubles for every 10-degree rise in temperature. But if the temperature is within the range that can be tolerated by the living system, it means the physiological process or the reaction we are talking here is a photosynthesis. Therefore, for every 10-degree rise in temperature, rate of photosynthesis tends to double. As the temperature increases up to the optimal, rate of photosynthesis tends to increase. Graphically, we can present this as follows. Let's say this horizontally, actually we put the external factor, which is temperature, and this, in this side, your rate of photosynthesis, rate of photosynthesis. From Q10 rule, rate of reaction tends to double for every 10-degree rise in temperature, but if the temperature is within the range that can be tolerated by the living system. It means when this temperature reaches the optimal level, for example, if this is here, we're saying maximum rate of reaction. It means as the temperature increases 10, 20, 30, 40, and so 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and 60. This is temperature, degree centigrade. As the temperature increases, again, the rate of photosynthesis tends to increase. But it reaches a point when this temperature exceeds the maximum or exceeds the optimal condition, the rate of photosynthesis cannot increase. There is a stationary phase here. The further increase of temperature has no effect on the rate of reaction, and this is because the temperature has been exceeded the so-called optimum temperature. As we have said, when the temperature exceeds the optimum temperature, rate of reaction tends to decrease, and this is because at high temperature enzymes tend to be denatured, but at low temperature, we are saying the rate is too slow because the enzymes are inactive. As you can see here, from this, This is at a temperature of 10, you see, 20, 30, and so. Yes. Therefore, this is how the temperature can affect the rate of photosynthesis. If the temperature is optimum, for every 10-degree rise in temperature, there is an increase, there is doubling of the rate of photosynthesis. Therefore, you can explain this concept of temperature. To understand this concept of Q10 rules, you can refer in biological science, in the topic of cytology, talk about these Q10 rules. Another factor which affects the rate of photosynthesis, external factor, carbon dioxide concentration. Yes, how carbon dioxide concentration affects the rate of photosynthesis. If you remember, we have said this carbon dioxide is converted into carbohydrate. But we have C3 plant and also we have C4 plant. When there is high concentration of carbon dioxide, the rate of photosynthesis tends to increases. But decrease of the level of this carbon dioxide concentration, especially in C3 plant, it affects the rate of photosynthesis. And this is because at the low level of carbon dioxide concentration, the enzymes which is found in C3 plant, it tends to fix oxygen instead of this carbon dioxide. And the process which will result is photorespiration and not photosynthesis. Therefore, decreased level of carbon dioxide has greater effect in the photosynthesis, especially in C3 plant. We normally know the optimal range of carbon dioxide or atmospheric carbon dioxide, the percentage is around 0.03 up to 0.04. This is the percentage of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. When the plant is growing in the site where there is higher concentration of carbon dioxide, for example, a green plant, they show greater rate of photosynthesis because of this. More carbon dioxide, more fixation. It means when we increase the level of carbon dioxide, we increase the chances of Ruby to fix this carbon dioxide to form products such as PGA, this PGA converted into PGAL, and so. Therefore, carbon dioxide concentration has a greater effect on the rate of photosynthesis. As you have said, in C3 plant, high rate of carbon dioxide facilitate high rate of photosynthesis. And if you remember from the previous lesson, it's because when we increase carbon dioxide concentration, we favor photosynthesis and not photorespiration. But again, when this carbon dioxide exceeds the optimal carbon dioxide which is required by plant, it is again harmful. Graphically, this carbon dioxide concentration, we can present it as follows: rate of photosynthesis, This is carbon dioxide. You see? Again, as we have said, as the carbon dioxide increases, the rate of reaction or the rate of photosynthesis again increases. But it reaches a point when this carbon dioxide exceeds the normal level required by the plant, it becomes harmful. And that is why at this point there is a decrease in the rate of photosynthesis because of high level of carbon dioxide concentration, which again will affect the plant. Therefore, another factor which affects the rate of photosynthesis is light. But the concept of light can be viewed under two aspects. We have light quality. Quality, it means here we are talking about light wavelength. And light quantity. Here in light quantity, we are talking about light intensity. Okay. Light wavelength, actually, starting with this light wavelength, for photosynthesis to occur, the green plant absorbs light within the limit of light spectrum. Okay. For photosynthesis to occur, as you have said, this green plant absorbs light within the limit of light spectrum. Therefore, there is an effective wavelength at which the rate of photosynthesis is expected to be high. For light wavelength, effective wavelength at which the rate of photosynthesis is expected to be high is red orange, which is approximated to be 600, 700 nanometer. But also in this wavelength, blue, which is approximately 400 into 500 nanometer. Therefore, this is the most effective wavelength at which the rate of photosynthesis is expected to be high. Okay, but light intensity, the rate of photosynthesis increases with the increase of light intensity. As the light intensity increases, the rate of photosynthesis again increases. But it reaches a point where the further increase of this light intensity has no effect on the rate of photosynthesis. And at this point, we call it light saturation. At this light saturation, when there is an increase of light intensity, there is no effect on the rate of photosynthesis. Let us see the graph of this light intensity. We can draw like this. You see, horizontally we put a light intensity. Here we put rate of photosynthesis. Therefore, we are saying the rate of photosynthesis is proportional to the light intensity. Therefore, initially, there is an increase in the light intensity. You see, from here up to this point, we are saying light intensity is a limiting factor. Here, light intensity is a limiting factor. But as you can see here, as the graph started to decreases, we are saying light intensity and other factors such as carbon dioxide and water act as a limiting factor. But there is this point. This point we call it light saturation. Light saturation point. At this point, the further increase of light intensity has no effect on the rate of photosynthesis. It means that at this point, the light intensity is no longer a limiting factor. The reaction or the rate of photosynthesis is limited by other factors such as carbon dioxide, water, etc. You see, this is how the light intensity affects the rate of photosynthesis. Okay, another factor which affects the rate of photosynthesis is water. Water is the essential raw material for photosynthesis. Therefore, for photosynthesis to occur, the water must be there. In absence of water, all we are saying, under condition of water stress, one of the phytohormone, known as abscisic acid, stimulates the closure of the stomata. And once the stomata closes, it reduces the amount of oxygen that diffuses into the plant tissue. And thus, it can reduce the rate of photosynthesis. Okay, another factor is wind velocity. Again, wind velocity again reduces the rate of photosynthesis, because the high moving velocity, we are saying it affects the rate of photosynthesis because it facilitates rapid loss of water from the plant. Generally, we call it transpiration. Therefore, this transpiration can result into loss of water which will be available for the process of photosynthesis. The moving wind can affect the rate of photosynthesis. But also, we have another internal factor which affects the rate of photosynthesis, and this is how this inhibitor affects the rate of photosynthesis. Actually, for the process of photosynthesis to stop, when you use this inhibitor, it affects the rate of photosynthesis. How? One of the inhibitor, for example, in most of herbicides, they contain the so-called DCMU. The long form of this is dichlorophenyl dimethyl urea. Okay, this inhibitor has a tendency to affect the flow of electron movement in non-cyclic photophosphorylation. It affects electron flow in non-cyclic photophosphorylation. Therefore, we are saying this it tends to affect, or this it tends to inhibit. It inhibit light reaction. Once this light reaction inhibited, there could be no ATP and reduce NADP, which could be used into the next step of photosynthesis, which is light independent reaction. Therefore, this inhibitor, it affects the rate of photosynthesis. Therefore, all these factors can affect the rate of photosynthesis. Okay, after explaining all of the factors which affect the rate of photosynthesis, let me take you to some of the sample questions that you may be asked from this part of factor affecting rate of photosynthesis. Sample question number 1 is, how does each of the following affect the rate of photosynthesis? A, enzyme; B, inhibitor; C, temperature. Okay, we have seen the factor which affect the rate of photosynthesis, and one of the factor is enzymes. From the concept of cytology, the photosynthesis is enzyme-controlled reaction. Therefore, for this reaction or for rate of photosynthesis to be high, there must be optimal condition. Enzymes, they work under optimal condition. When the condition is too low, it can result into inactiveness of the enzymes. But when the condition is too high, it means it exceeds the optimal condition, it can result into the so-called denaturation of the enzymes, since the enzymes are protein in nature. Therefore, the rate of photosynthesis to be high, the optimal condition must be there so that the enzyme can work effectively. Another factor is inhibitor. As I told you, the most of the herbicides, they contain the so-called DCMU, dichlorophenyl dimethyl urea. This is the most common inhibitor. when you want to kill a plant, the most common way is to inhibit the light reaction. This inhibitor has a tendency to inhibit the flow of electron in non-cyclic photophosphorylation. And once this electron is inhibited from moving from one point to another, it can result into inhibition of light reaction. Once light reaction is inhibited, it means there could be no ATP and the use NADP, which could be used for the next stage of photosynthesis. Therefore, inhibitor also it can affect the rate of photosynthesis. Again, temperature. Yes, according to Q10 rules, as we have said, as the temperature increases, the rate of photosynthesis tends to double, according to Q10 rules. For every 10-degree rise in temperature, the rate of photosynthesis doubles. It means that as the temperature increases, again, the rate of photosynthesis increases. But it increases at the point we call it the optimal temperature. Above this temperature, the rate of photosynthesis is affected because different enzymes, they have a different optimal temperature. As we have seen in C3 plant and C4 plant, the optimal temperature for most of the C3 plant is at around 25 degrees centigrade. For C4, it's around 35 degrees centigrade. Therefore, temperature is one of the factors which can affect the rate of photosynthesis. For rate of photosynthesis to be high, the optimal temperature must be met. The demand of this question need to know how these factors affect the rate of photosynthesis. This is what we expect you to explain from this question. Another sample question: why does the rate of photosynthesis decreases when the temperature is above optimal? Yes, why the rate decreases when the temperature is above optimal? Student, you remember we have said the photosynthesis is an enzyme-controlled reaction. Therefore, since photosynthesis is enzyme-controlled reaction, therefore, even these enzymes require optimal condition. And one of the factors which affect the enzymes is the temperature. You see? Therefore, for enzyme to work best, the optimal temperature must be attained. Optimal temperature is the maximum temperature at which the rate of photosynthesis is high. Therefore, above this optimal temperature, the rate of photosynthesis tends to decrease. Tend to decrease because of what? The enzyme now has been denatured. This denaturation of the enzymes results into decrease in the rate of photosynthesis. Because once the three-dimensional shape of the protein molecules, which is now enzymes, is denatured, they cannot perform its normal function. Therefore, above this optimal temperature, the rate of photosynthesis tended to decrease because of denaturation of the enzymes. Let me conclude my lesson by saying we have seen the factor which affect the rate of photosynthesis, internal factors and external factors, how each factors affect the rate of photosynthesis. Therefore, what you're supposed to know here is each factor, are they internal or external, and how they affect the rate of photosynthesis. Thank you so much for listening. I'm inviting you to join me to the coming session. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Kipindi cha Darasa Online kimeletwa kwenu na Chuo Kikuu cha Sauti Mbeya.
Wakakaza na mwendo
yale mawazo ya kila mmoja nafikiri kwamba kuna watu watakuja kutupa misaada, tuyapoteze kichwani. Ule ni ugonjwa mkubwa, kwamba kile unachotaka kusema hatujapata mkopo kutoka wapi, hakuna lolote. Tumekopa mno tangu tupate uhuru, tumewategemea mno. Tuna wajibu sasa wa kujipanga sisi wenyewe. Tuna madini, tuna wanyama, tuna kila kitu. Tutaweza. Tumeanza kujenga Stiegler's Gorge. Trilioni 6.5 zitatumika. Tumenunua